noise is coming from here.
No, it's over there, it's over there.
Oh! The forest is alive with mystery. In tonight's video, we uncover Bigfoot signs and witch legends in Appalachia with the Sons of Appalachia team. Then travel into British Columbia, the land of the Sasquatch. We head to Mount Hood in Oregon, where one man spent a night alone in the wild. Mo Sargi faces his scariest chase in Bigfoot forest, while Dr. Jeff Meldrum studies real footprints. Finally, we witness a chilling Bigfoot encounter inside a haunted forest. Jonathan has spent many years exploring the wild places of the western United States. From tall mountain slopes to deep valleys and quiet forests, he has walked where few people go. His goal has always been the same: to search for signs of Bigfoot and to learn how this mysterious creature might live. On one of these journeys, Jonathan met with Dr. Jeff Meldrum, a scientist who has studied Sasquatch footprints for decades. Dr. Meldrum is well known for looking at tracks not as simple marks in the soil, but as clues to how a body is built and how it moves.
I focus on when I'm scanning people is, I try to focus on what the common area of injuries are. I've been scanning a lot of Liz Front injuries, right? A lot of metatarsal injuries, but with the Sasquatch foot that you had in your diagram,
Right.
pushing off like this, I mean, are we looking at ligaments maybe like inverted, or are they different, and
No.
the potential of injury, is it different?
At first glance, a Sasquatch footprint may look like a giant human track, but when studied closely, it tells a very different story. The human foot has an arch that helps us walk upright. The Sasquatch foot, however, is flat and wide. This design spreads weight more evenly, giving strength and balance with every step. For a creature that may weigh several hundred pounds, this feature is not just useful, it is necessary. Dr. Meldrum also talks about something called the mid-tarsal break. This is a flexible point in the middle of the foot. Humans don't have this kind of bend, but other primates do. It allows their feet to grip branches and move with power. In Sasquatch, the same motion helps create a strong and smooth step. Instead of rolling forward on the toes like humans, the Sasquatch bends at the midfoot, spreading pressure across the whole sole.
So in the Sasquatch foot, the trouble is, and I've dealt with clinicians who just could not, your present company excluded, who could not get it through their head that we're not talking about an alteration of the human foot. We're talking about the normal anatomy of a non-human hominoid foot that is plantigrade.
This way of walking may explain why their tracks look so unusual. The weight is not focused on one spot. It is shared across the foot, leaving prints that look wider and flatter than any human footprint. Jonathan has seen many casts that show this unique bend, and each one adds more evidence to the mystery. Some of these casts even tell stories of injury. One well-known print showed signs of a damaged foot, with shapes that looked unusual at first. Many thought it could not be real. But when doctors who study human bones looked at it, they agreed the injury made sense. It was the kind of damage they had seen in real patients, only much larger. Details like this are very hard to fake. Dr. Meldrum often reminds people that Sasquatch should not be seen as just a human with big feet. Instead, it should be seen as a different type of hominid, with its own natural design. Just as apes and gorillas have feet shaped for their lives, Sasquatch feet seem built for strength, quiet movement, and survival in wild country.
Between the hindfoot and the forefoot, and that takes place through flexion, extension, and rotation, the talonavicular joint, a little bit of flexion and extension, but mostly a twisting movement at the calcaneocuboid joint in the foot. When they come to the ground, then it's expressed as the mid-tarsal break, with the heel coming up, flexion across this compound joint, and push off. Push off's a whole different mechanism with a chimp walking on the ground quadrupedally. But in the Sasquatch foot...
For Jonathan, learning about these footprints is more than collecting casts. Each track is a window into how this creature moves and how it survives in places humans rarely reach. Every print is a reminder that the forest still holds secrets, and that the truth may be walking just beyond the trees.
And that motion itself too would tend to direct the knee inward a little bit, and so on. So he drew attention to this walleye. I think that's more idiosyncratic for Patty, quite honestly.
I also feel it's slightly attributed to walking on the sand.
Well, that can be too. Yeah, I mean, especially when you're sinking in 1.5 inches to 2 inches into that sand, then that's going to affect.
The question remains, if the tracks are so detailed, if the design makes so much sense, could Sasquatch be closer to real than most people believe? The woods waited in silence. Moe Sargi and his friend Danny had spent the whole day searching, moving deeper into a stretch known to locals as Bigfoot Forest. In daylight, it seemed almost ordinary. But once night settled in, everything changed. The air grew heavy. Dogs barked in the distance. Then came the sound. Heavy footsteps, steady, too deliberate to mistake for the wind or a falling branch. Something massive was out there, moving just beyond the light of their cameras. Did you hear that too?
Dude, it's coming from all around us. Guys, we are literally... And... Oh. Dude, I'm telling you, he's here. He's somewhere around here.
Yo, bro, it sounds like a freaking instrument.
Hello? Bigfoot, my boy? Bro, that was heavy. Those were some heavy footsteps. God. I think we're in a lot of danger right now.
Yeah, I think we're like in the middle of the place.
Each step into the forest felt watched. Trees groaned as if bent by an unseen weight shifting against one another. It wasn't the breeze. It was pressure, force, something pushing the woods around them. Mo admitted he couldn't prove Bigfoot was real, but the sounds were undeniable. Branches snapping, shapes moving where there should have been nothing. The forest carried its own pulse, and it was closing in on them. What would you do if you felt the woods moving against you?
Second, it became nighttime. Some weird noises, like literally two giant trees were rubbing against each other in the distance. It's not windy outside. Something was pushing those trees, and I'm calling... Bro, I'm literally gonna say it was
those
Bigfoot.
Were massive trees too.
Like, I've never seen Bigfoot, so I can't say if this is real or not, or if he is real or not. But I know when there's something out there, and I need you guys to stay till the end of the video. Make sure you keep your eyes wide open. Let me know if you spot anything in the distance.
When they reached the small fort they had built on a past visit, it felt like shelter, a reminder they weren't strangers to these trees. But that comfort didn't last. Out of the dark, Mo caught it. A massive, pale shape flashing between the trees. It looked almost like a polar bear charging, but larger, upright, too quick for a clear view. Panic took hold.
What the is that? Dude! Holy
Their only defense was a couple of sticks, shaking in their hands, useless against something of that size. Could this have been the moment Bigfoot showed itself? The figure was gone as quickly as it appeared, but its presence stayed. Every sound after felt sharper. Every shadow seemed thicker. What was it? A bear? Impossible. Too white, too tall. A trick of the dark? No. It had weight. It had speed. Both men knew something had been there, something that wanted them to see.
I just heard some noises. I swear I heard some noises. Yo. Dude, I thought I heard. What the is that? Dude! Holy this. No, what the was that?
Bro, it was a freaking... It looks like a big white thing, bro. I think that was a white bear.
That looked like a bear. That looked like a f***ing polar bear.
The forest did not rest. Eyes glimmered between branches. Footsteps circled, slow, patient, heavy. Then a crash. Rocks hurled through the brush. Wolves howled in the distance, and fresh tracks stamped the ground. The circle tightened. Whatever was out there was keeping them penned in. Mo whispered his disbelief, his voice low and tight, while Danny scanned the tree line. Then the charge. Mo swore it rushed them, snapping branches as it came. Can you imagine standing there, waiting to see what breaks through the dark?
It's coming from in here.
No, it's over there. It's over there. Oh! Go! It's coming! It's coming! It's coming! Go! Go! It's coming! Oh, don't step on the ice, Danny! Danny, come back!
In the scramble to escape, Danny stumbled, injuring his leg. Fear and adrenaline drove them forward, limping, scanning, desperate to reach safety. The forest felt alive, not as a place, but as a predator. Their fort now looked different. Not protection, but a claim marker, something that belonged to whatever ruled these woods. Mo admitted on camera he had expected nothing to happen that night, but instead, it became one of the scariest nights of his life. Something followed them, something unseen yet undeniable. Whether it was a bear, a wolf, or the creature these woods are named for, he could not say. The night left one question behind. What stalked them in Bigfoot Forest? An animal hunting its ground, or a legend walking in the dark? What do you think they faced out there? Have you ever wondered why British Columbia is often called the true land of the Sasquatch? Here, mountains rise like walls, rivers cut deep through valleys, and the forests seem endless. In these wild places, people have shared stories for centuries, stories of something large, powerful, and mysterious moving through the trees. This is where the Sasquatch legend feels most alive. Not as a distant tale, but as something rooted in the land and in the people who have lived here for generations. Long before the word Bigfoot was known, British Columbia already had the name Sasquatch. The term was first made popular in the early 1900s by a man named J.W. Burns, who listened carefully to First Nations communities. They described huge, human-like beings that lived far from villages, keeping their distance but always close enough to remind people they were there.
And of course, J.W. Burns, who was writing the article introducing BC's hairy giants, brought the name Sasquatch to the public mind in British Columbia.
He was talking with a lot of the First Nations people there because he'd heard about this thing called the Sasquatch.
Even earlier, settlers and explorers like Joseph Dunn picked up on these stories. What began as whispers in communities slowly grew into accounts that reached newspapers, magazines. By the mid-20th century, British Columbia had become the beating heart of Sasquatch research. Some of the most famous names in this field were known as the Four Horsemen of Sasquatch research: John Green, René Dahinden, Grover Krantz, and Peter Byrne. Each one had a different style, but they all left a deep mark on the subject. Green kept records and interviewed witnesses. Dahinden searched tirelessly for proof. Krantz studied bones and science. Byrne pushed for international attention. Together, they made British Columbia the starting point for serious study. The Sasquatch was not just a mystery. It was part of their living history. To them, the forest was never empty. Every sound, every shadow carried meaning. People driving late at night through Squamish tell of something crossing the road in a few powerful strides. Campers describe heavy footsteps circling their tents. Hunters speak of sudden silence in the forest, as if every bird and animal senses something watching. These are not only old stories, they are fresh, living memories carried by ordinary people. What makes British Columbia so unique is the land itself. Vast, untamed, and often unreachable, it offers shelter to creatures that could stay hidden for a lifetime. A single valley here can be larger than some entire countries. To move through it is to feel how easy it would be for something to remain unseen. As researchers push deeper into these forests, they map sightings, listen for calls, and study the strange details that never seem to fade. Some witnesses even suffer long after their encounters, shaken by something they cannot explain. The legend of the Sasquatch is not fading here. If anything, it is growing, rooted in the past, alive in the present, and still waiting in the shadows of the British Columbia wilderness. So the question remains, in a land this vast, this wild, could the Sasquatch truly be out there? Deep in the Appalachian Mountains, the hunt for answers takes a darker turn. The sons of Appalachia are no strangers to strange encounters, but this night feels different. It begins with a figure in the fog, an old woman, frail, silent, watching from the trees. Before they can call out, she vanishes like smoke. Where she stood, they discover something unsettling. A carved stone, a so-called witching rock, believed to open a doorway between this world and another. In her hand, a crooked staff, not for walking, but a key, a tool of crossing.
Are unforgiving.
They're very interesting, I can tell you that.
Hold up. Whoa, 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 whoa. Easy, easy. You guys seeing this?
That's a woman, ain't it?
That's her. Ma'am, are you okay?
You can plainly tell that's not an old woman. That is a witch. But the question is, where did she go? She was there and she disappeared. She went somewhere.
Following her trail, they stumble upon something far more disturbing. Wrapped in cloth, half buried in the leaves, lies a rotting liver, torn and bitten, with a shard of black obsidian driven through it like a spear. The find matches an ancient Cherokee legend, Spearfinger, a witch who lured wanderers with stolen voices, then stabbed their livers with her stone finger. The mountain comes alive with echoes of that story. Voices call from the dark. A man's father, the sound of children humming, then scratching behind their backs, but no one there. The forest feels alive, bending reality around them.
Like what they used to make knives and stuff out of it. They even use it today for surgical instruments. There's an old Cherokee legend about the Spearfinger woman. She would draw people out into these woods, and she had a long finger. It was that long. She'd use that to stab people in the liver and kill them, and then steal their livers and chew on them.
Jeez.
Let's just stop and figure it up for a little bit.
Then, firelight. A scarecrow rises in the distance, flames dancing at its feet. They rush forward, but the figure melts into shadows. It's clear they're being watched, maybe even toyed with. Just as fear sharpens, a new lead emerges. A local landowner shows them a trail cam photo unlike anything they've seen. A massive hand, rough and broad, reaching across the lens. Whatever it was destroyed the camera, but left behind a single SD card. The witch's shadow is replaced with something bigger, something flesh and blood. The hunt shifts, from legend to Bigfoot.
What are you doing? I said scared.
Stay ready, guys.
What are you doing?
What's up?
Where'd he go? Where'd he go? He's going over there. Holy. That dude can move. Where did he get seen back?
No. We seen this fire up in front of us. We moved in. It ain't that witch. It's a scarecrow.
This isn't the first time we've had an encounter with a scarecrow.
In the Carolina backwoods, signs build quickly. Mushrooms bitten clean. Limbs snapped and twisted high in the trees. Classic markers of Sasquatch activity. Tree knocks echo answered from the distance. Rocks clatter through the brush hurled from the dark. Something circles them, heavy-footed, staying just beyond sight. They split into teams surrounding the area, each man scanning ridges and hollers. Hours stretch into silence. Then, a gamble. Music plays into the trees, a voice from the hills carried like bait. In Appalachia, legends often answer back. Sometimes with a whisper, sometimes with a growl, and sometimes with a hand reaching out of the dark.
You can tell by the brown.
It's been here a while.
This has been here for a while. So this isn't nothing fresh, but this is definitely a good sign of Bigfoot. This is a tough tree too. This is oak. That's oak. Yeah. It took something powerful to do this.
It's gonna take no weekend to break that thing.
It took something powerful to do this.
Yes, sir. Keep that thing over.
The only thing that's concerning me is we found a couple of these, but it looks kind of old to me.
Yeah, like whatever
So
did it's out of here.
Yeah.
And so, the deeper they push into the hills, the more the lines blur between folklore and flesh. The witch, the spearfinger, the burning scarecrow, all reminders that Appalachia is a land where legends breathe. But the broken trees, the thrown rocks, the heavy steps in the brush, those are not just stories. They're signs. Proof that something walks here still. Something watching, something waiting. What do you think? Did the sons of Appalachia stumble into living folklore? Or a creature of flesh and blood hidden in these mountains?
We're going to do an investigation tonight. Plus, I've got a load of new gear that I want to show. It's a bit eerie already because it's really quiet.
Grizzly Gaz has returned once again to the deep woods. This is the same camp where he has heard strange sounds before, the place that always seems to hold a heavy, uneasy feeling. This time he comes prepared with new gear, more cameras, and a determination to see if the forest will reveal its secrets. The camp itself is tucked between steep banks, with a rushing stream close by. The sound of the water is constant, echoing through the trees. It feels peaceful at first glance, but the longer you stand there, the more you notice how quiet everything else is. No wind in the branches, no calls of birds, just the steady roar of water. Gaz even remarks that this would be the perfect place for something like the Mothman to appear. His dog, little Fendi, follows close behind, tail low, as if she feels the same tension.
Saw that down for some reason. Poor tree. So through there there's a bit of a path that goes through bracken, a bit of a fact. Let's go and have a look, shall we? It's just a little track that goes through this bracken here, a bit of a game trail.
While setting up, Gaz finds strange signs scattered through the area. A tree has been sawed halfway through, left standing like a trap. A stick looks as if it has been chewed. Fallen logs block paths, as though the forest itself is closing in. He sets up his tarp, hammock, and new underquilt, making his camp secure. He knows that when night falls, this place will feel very different. As darkness spreads, the mood begins to shift. Strange whistles drift through the trees. A cough echoes nearby, sharp and out of place. Birds take off in sudden alarm, their wings beating hard in the night. Even Fendi reacts, staring into the blackness where nothing can be seen. Gaz decides to switch off his lights and sit in complete darkness. The silence presses in, heavy and absolute. He whispers softly into the night, asking if someone is there. No answer comes, but the sense of being watched grows stronger.
Hello, anyone here? Oh, that'll do me head in that. Oh, can't handle that, that's doing me head in.
Then the banging begins. Loud, sudden, and close. Each crash cuts through the rush of the stream, powerful and deliberate. Fendi whimpers and stays close. Gaz scans the trees, wondering if it is people, animals, or something else. The stream only adds to the confusion. Its constant roar plays tricks on the mind, shaping the sound of voices that don't exist, whispers floating through the night. Alone in the dark, every small crack and snap feels sharper, heavier. To steady himself, Gaz places a trail camera near camp, hoping it might capture whatever moves unseen. The night continues with the occasional rustle, an echo here, a crack there, but nothing comes close enough to reveal itself. Slowly, he drifts into uneasy sleep.
Crackers. Right, I'm going to chill out for a bit, then I'll take that night vision goggle thingy for a bit of a walk later. See if we can see out.
By morning, the camp looks calm. Nothing seems disturbed. But the real shock comes when he checks the camera. On the footage, crouched low before the lens, is a figure, human-like in shape, but strange, silent, and close enough to leave a chill. It appears only for a moment, but that moment is enough. Something had come near in the night. Something had watched. For Gaz, the forest has once again left him with more questions than answers. Was it simply a person passing by in the dark? Or was it something else, something tied to the mystery of these woods?
That's what it looks like down there, by the river. That looks proper creepy through here. Doesn't it? What do you guys think? Looks proper creepy. In black and white and that.
And for anyone watching, the question lingers. Out here, in the quiet between the trees, who or what comes close when the night is at its deepest? Have you ever stepped into a forest so quiet, so heavy with mist, that you feel like you are not alone? That's Mount Hood. Towering over Oregon, it is one of the most famous Bigfoot hotspots in the Pacific Northwest. This is where YouTuber Mike Wanders decided to go. Alone. One man, one tent, deep inside Mount Hood National Forest. His goal was simple: spend the night in prime Sasquatch country and see what happens. Right from the start, the forest seemed alive. He kept noticing dark shapes between trees, shadows that made him stop and look twice. At one point, he stared at a black object wedged between two tree trunks. For a moment, it almost seemed alive. Then it didn't move, and he convinced himself it was just a stump. But that's the strange thing about Bigfoot country. The line between what's real and what's not is always thin.
Alright, so here's clearly the spot where most likely people, sure, deer, elk, can use the same paths. You can almost see, you can see a bit of a path that runs up and that way. So this could be people, as this is a common place for the FRO to come in and research, supposedly. So I can't get too excited about something like that unless I see a track.
Mike had prepared well. Before heading into the woods, he stopped at the North American Bigfoot Center. The people there gave him advice, shared stories of encounters, and pointed him to areas with repeated activity. One researcher even told him about a night filled with terrifying growls and screams in these very woods. Sounds so intense that he packed up and left at 2 in the morning. Those words echoed in Mike's mind as he set up camp. The forest around Mount Hood is exactly what you'd expect for Sasquatch. Thick moss covers the ground. Huge trees rise into the fog. Paths cut through the woods, used by elk and deer, and maybe something much bigger. The land feels untouched, as if it still belongs to whatever has lived here for centuries.
Alright, so I noticed this opening in the trees, which led me to this here. Definitely looks like some sort of impression. Here's my boot next to it. I'm size 13. That looks to be roughly the same size. There's more. Super faint. I'm not the best tracker. This is the path here. Probably, it's always hard to tell on camera. When you're here in person, you can usually tell.
As night came, the mood shifted. During the day, Mike felt calm, even at home. But when the light faded, the forest felt different. Every sound seemed louder, every shadow deeper. Alone in the dark, he admitted how easy it is for your mind to wander. When you're by yourself, it's just you and the silence. And whatever else may be moving out there. Mike tried calling out with whoops, hoping for a reply. He listened for knocks, for footsteps, for anything unusual. He even left an audio recorder running, hoping it would catch sounds while he was away from camp. Nothing obvious happened, but the tension never left. Later, hiking toward Thunder Mountain and Skookum Lake, he noticed impressions in the snow. some were faint, some larger than his own size 13 boot. Were they old tracks, stretched by melting snow, or something more? He couldn't be sure.
So the thing I'm really looking for right now is, some type of knock or vocalization. So when I turn off all the lights, it is absolutely pitch black. It's a cloudy night. I can't even see the hand in front of my face.
But this is the truth about searching for Sasquatch. Most nights nothing happens. And that's what Mike experienced. No clear sightings, no knocks or screams, just the overwhelming quiet of the forest, broken only by rain, fog, and the crackle of his campfire. Yet that's the beauty of it. Bigfooting isn't always about proof. It's about being in places where legends live. It's about walking the same ground where others have seen something impossible. It's about patience and the love of the wilderness. And so Mike left Mount Hood with no encounter, but also with no regrets. Because the mystery is still alive. The forest still holds its secrets. And maybe one night, someone will walk into these woods and find more than shadows.
These are some impressions here. I first noticed this one. Just slightly. It's definitely faded, so it's not fresh. Here's a bit of a bigger one. There's the size of my boot. If you can see that right there. And then this one, much bigger. Could be a track that just expanded over time.
The forest is never truly silent. Even in stillness, it feels alive. And on one chilling night, Angelo from Exploring with Angelo decided to test that silence. He set out alone, deep into a forest known not only for its haunted whispers, but also for strange encounters with something much bigger than legend, Bigfoot. The spot he chose wasn't random. Locals call it the Whispering Woods. Stories here go back generations, tales of eerie voices drifting through the trees, rocks thrown from unseen hands, and screams that echo across the dark hills. Angelo wanted answers, and he brought his camera to capture whatever the night would bring.
So I hear someone talking. I don't know. There's definitely something really odd about this place. Hearing like movement down there almost. Bigfoot? So last time we were here too, once we got down by the river.
At first, everything seemed calm. He walked the narrow trails, showing the quiet stream and thick bracken crowding the path. His voice was steady, but the air already carried that heavy, uneasy quiet. "Beautiful but creepy," he said softly. And he was right. It was both. Setting up camp, Angelo placed his hammock between two trees and built a small shelter with his tarp. Even as he worked, the sense of being watched lingered. He had his trail cameras ready, his night vision gear, and his loyal dog by his side. Still, something about the forest felt different, closer, as though it was waiting for him. As darkness fell, the real test began. The forest closed in with shadows, the stream running louder, almost like whispers in the dark. Then came the first sound, a whistle cutting through the night air. It wasn't the wind, and it wasn't a bird. Angelo froze, his camera searching the black. "Hello?" he called out. But no answer came. Only silence, heavy and unbroken.
The thing is with this place too, when you come out here, you always feel like you're being watched. Oh look, a stick. I didn't even realize that was there. Okay, but something like definitely through like a rock or something. Hang on, let's try something here. Just set you guys up here for a sec again on the tripod.
Not long after, more strange noises stirred the night. Branches cracked, crows erupted in sudden alarm, and faint voices drifted through the trees. At one point, Angelo whispered that it sounded like someone was coughing nearby. Yet when his light swept the woods, there was nothing there. Then came the banging, sharp, heavy strikes that echoed across the forest floor. His dog stirred uneasily, ears up, whining softly. Angelo's calm tone wavered just for a moment, because whatever was out there, it was close. And just when it seemed the night had given all its secrets, the trail camera revealed something chilling. The next morning, Angelo reviewed the footage. What he saw left him silent. A dark shape crouched low in front of the lens. Not a deer, not a trick of light. A figure, human-like, but wrong. Watching.
Okay, there is definitely something going on out here. Let's go back to camp. Those 3 knocks sounded like they were literally like right in that direction. Just gonna keep kind of quiet, see if we hear anything else. I should come back during the day and go further up the trail. Maybe even bring some.
Alone in those haunted woods, Angelo had caught something most people only whisper about. A presence that matched the screams, the whistles, and the pounding in the night. Some say it was Bigfoot. Others believe it was something far darker, tied to the haunted history of the forest. For Angelo, it was a reminder that the woods still hold mysteries we cannot explain. What walked near his camp that night? Who, or what, crouched before that camera? That's the question left hanging in the cold morning air. And maybe it's a question that will never truly have an answer. So what do you think? Was Angelo's night in the Whispering Woods a close encounter with Bigfoot? Or was it something far stranger, tied to the haunted past of the forest? Some roads hold more than history. They carry whispers, secrets, and shadows that never seem to fade. This is an old, abandoned stretch of road, known by locals for strange happenings. Long ago, people say it was a meeting place for trouble, a road used for things best left unspoken. Some even believe spirits still walk here, tied to the forest that closes in from both sides. On this night, Jared from Exploring with Bear returned with his wife, Tiff, to see how far they could go. Their goal was simple: reach the quiet lake at the end of the road, where stories of strange voices and lights have often been told. But as the last light of day slipped away, the mood began to change. At first there was laughter and easy talk, but then soft voices seemed to move through the trees. A faint sound, like a girl calling from the woods, stopped them in their tracks. Seconds later, a sharp cry echoed across the road.
It's coming from the big black hole.
That was a scream.
Yes, it was.
Scream. Big black hole. Road. Date night. No kids. Romantic.
Date night.
Trying to stay calm, they kept walking. That's when gunshots cracked in the distance. Some far away, others much closer. The air grew heavy. The thought that someone could be out there, watching them, was impossible to ignore. Still, Jared pressed forward, reminding Tiff about old road markers that lined the way. But every step grew harder. Branches snapped nearby, as if someone was moving with them. Shadows shifted at the edge of their flashlights. Then it came again, a clear, chilling voice from deep in the forest. Run. Not once, but twice.
Cobwebs on the face.
I was about to say I'd like to go in front.
Here, let's get it. We need to get out of bed. What the world?
Run?
They just said run. Wait a minute.
Tiff's flashlight flickered. Bushes rustled. Her nerves cracked under the weight of it all. Jared tried to hold steady, but even he admitted something was near. Something real. Moments later, faint eyes reflected from the brush, glowing for only seconds before fading back into black. Strange lights flickered in the distance, as if someone was moving with lanterns through the trees. And all the while, the sounds of voices and shots wrapped around them. By then, Tiff had reached her limit. She told Jared she was done, that if he came back again, she would wait locked safely in the truck. The road had given enough warnings for one night.
You got a little too far ahead of me, huh? You didn't like that. I know, once your nerves get to a certain point, everything scares the crap out of you. There's a set of trees, and then I think there's just a field on the other side of that.
But Jared couldn't help but wonder, were these only echoes of past events? Or could the road itself hold on to the energy of what once happened here? A haunting that refuses to rest. In the end, they left with more questions than answers. The old road lived up to its reputation, a place that does not welcome visitors. So what do you think? Were Jared and Tiff followed that night by people hiding in the woods? Or was it something far stranger, a voice carried from another world? It was winter of 1988, the kind of cold that hangs heavy in the air and turns every breath into fog. Snow lined the narrow roads near Salt Fork State Park in Ohio, and the forest beyond the asphalt looked like a sea of white-dusted trees. Rich LaMonica was finishing up his deliveries for the day, driving his route just like he had 100 times before. The world was quiet, the only sound the hum of his truck's engine and the occasional crunch of snow beneath the tires. Then something caught his eye. Up ahead, on the edge of the woods, something massive moved. At first, Rich thought it might be a deer. This was Ohio, after all. But this was no deer. The figure was enormous, broad-shouldered, and completely covered in dark fur. Black, or maybe a deep chocolate brown, it stood out starkly against the white snow as it stepped toward the tree line. Without thinking twice, Rich hit the brakes.
Taking the straightaway, about halfway through the straightaway is when I noticed the creature, or whatever it was, going through the woods. I couldn't see if it had hair on it, but it was definitely black or a very, very dark brown.
The truck slid slightly on the icy road before coming to a halt. His heart was hammering. Curiosity and adrenaline kicked in as he jumped out of the cab. If that really was Bigfoot, he wasn't about to let it just disappear without trying to get a better look. Rich ran toward the tree line, boots crunching on the icy ground. But the figure was fast. By the time he reached the edge of the woods, it had already vanished into the dense, snow-laden trees. All he could see were a few faint impressions in the snow.
But it was definitely black or a very, very dark brown from head to toe.
LaMonica quickly pulled his truck over.
I hopped down and ran back to see if I could glimpse it any further. It was huge. It was absolutely wide and huge. Because of the outline of the snow and no trees and no leaves, I was able to see it very well, in fact.
Spaced far apart, too far apart to be a man's stride. He stood there in the silence, catching his breath, listening. The forest was still. No birds, no movement, just the echo of his own breathing. Whatever it was, it had been bigger than any man he'd ever seen, with a build that looked more like a linebacker than a human. For years after, Rich replayed that moment over and over in his mind. Could it have been a bear? Maybe. But bears don't walk upright like that.
Around, but I didn't see anything moving. And because I was scheduled to make deliveries, couldn't stay too long.
And whatever this was, it had been on two legs, moving quickly and deliberately toward the cover of the woods. Salt Fork has a reputation as one of the biggest Bigfoot hotspots in the United States, with dozens of reported sightings over the years. Rich had heard those stories before, but on that snowy day in 1988, it stopped being just a story for him. He may not have gotten the perfect look at the creature, but he saw enough to know one thing: there was something out there that didn't belong. And it was watching the road just as closely as he was watching the woods. Some encounters stay with you forever. For Paul, a retired soldier from Jackson, New Jersey, the strange and unexplainable began long before the Army. His first brush with the unknown came when he was just 6 years old.
Classical, I could say conical-looking head, but I saw a shadow moving across the curtains, because my mom had these they were like not solid, but you could still see out. But I saw it moving And then I saw its shadow, like, you know what I'm saying? It's here, and then the shadow's like, causes the shadow across there. And I was looking at it like, what is that? I'm only like 6, 7 years old.
As a boy, he would often hear scratching at the window in the dead of night. At first, he thought it might be branches in the wind. Curiosity got the best of him. He pulled himself up, peered through the glass, and froze. A figure, large, dark, and unmistakably walking upright, crossed the front yard in slow, deliberate strides. The sight was so surreal that his young mind struggled to process it. But it didn't end there.
I can't explain it. I don't know what it was. But I'm really, really fortunate that I had curtains like that in my room. Because if this thing was standing outside my window and it was looking, I seen it staring in, I'm really glad I only heard the scratching and never got the look at his face, because I think Dinks would be a lot different for me right now. But I thank the man upstairs for like not letting me see that one. I'm glad I just saw the silhouette and not his mug in my window like some people have.
After that, strange events became part of Paul's life. Odd sounds outside his home, a constant sense of being watched, and the eerie feeling that something, or someone, was always nearby. That early experience etched itself into his memory, and when he joined the military, he carried that fear with him.
And it was back in the day, Jackson was very rural. It was farms, country, cows, and we had cows. We were on a farm. Every now and again, I would hear like scratching on my window. Didn't think nothing of it. And then I left my room because I turned the light off. I went out into the living room, you know, the dining room, living room. And then the living room had my parents had these big bay windows.
During his time at Fort Bragg in the early 1990s, Paul experienced something even stranger. Out in the field on a quiet night, he saw 3 glowing orbs moving toward him. First red, then green, then blue. They moved in unison, gliding silently across the darkness. The lights didn't behave like flares or anything man-made he recognized, and as quickly as they appeared, they were gone, leaving Paul staring at the empty night sky, shaken and more confused than ever.
The red orb was a dull red, and it illuminated the whole area red. So when it went from my, right to left, it illuminated, and you saw the trees move, and it went down, then a green orb, and then a blue orb. And you're like, what the heck was that? And I'm looking like that, and then all of a sudden the trees above me started like going crazy. And all I can describe it, you ever been in the trees and the helicopter's hovering above you? That's what it looked like. It was like a downwash from a helicopter above you, but there was no noise.
But nothing could prepare him for what came years later, after he had left the military. He was working as a loader operator near the Jackson-Manchester border, a remote area with miles of forest. It was a bitterly cold Monday morning, around 6:30 a.m. The kind of morning where the cold bites through every layer of clothing. He had just started his routine, firing up the heavy equipment. As he walked back toward his truck, the world went still, and then it came.
So the one morning, it had to be late December, early January, and it was like 6:30 in the morning. It's still black out, it was dark, and it was like maybe 10 degrees out. It was cold. So I cranked up all the machines, let them run so that, all the oil and fluids get all warm so I can move them. I parked my truck in the hole, and it was about a half mile. I had to walk back to get the machines.
A scream tore through the tree line, so loud and guttural it stopped him dead in his tracks. It was nothing like a coyote or a fox cry. This was deep, primal, almost human, but far too powerful. Paul's military instincts immediately kicked in. He scanned the tree line, every sense on high alert. The scream came again, this time closer, and he saw movement. Massive trees shaking, something big coming through the brush.
And it made the hair stand up. I had a cup of coffee and a butter roll in my hand. I was just drinking myself and walking to get and I actually spun around, and I don't remember touching the ground. I just remember, and I'm looking back towards my truck. And then I see these pine trees moving. like something's coming through these pine trees, and it's TO'd, and it's coming towards like the edge of the tree line that's up on that.
At that moment, panic set in. Paul had faced danger before, but this was different. This wasn't an enemy soldier or a hostile situation he had trained for. This felt wrong. His body went rigid, his feet rooted to the frozen ground.
I'm too far to my truck to try to run to it. So I just said, you know what? This is all in your head. Don't worry about it. Even though I seen those pine trees move. You know, I mean, something moved these pine trees, moved it, physically moved these pine trees.
Then, out of the corner of his eye, he saw it. A towering silhouette stood among the trees. Broad shoulders, massive frame, motionless but radiating a presence that sent adrenaline flooding through his body. The air felt charged, almost electric, and Paul swears he could feel its anger, its rage, directed squarely at him. He felt completely exposed, vulnerable, like prey.
And I said, all I started going through in my mind, my dad, they're not going to find my body. They're not going to find my body. Because this thing, whatever it was full of anger and rage. It stopped, and I guess these things can read your mind. They say they can, but I don't know. But I sat there, and I said, man, I survived all this crap from the military.
At that moment, his mind started racing. He thought of his family, his mom, his dad, and the horrifying possibility that no one would ever find his body if this thing decided to attack. The thought of death out there, alone and in the cold, was all too real. Many people ask him why he didn't do something, why he didn't grab a weapon or try to scare it off. But Paul is blunt. He was unarmed, carrying nothing but his coffee. Confronting it would have been suicide. His every instinct told him not to move, not to provoke it. The two of them stood there in silence, man and beast, locked in a standoff. Paul says he could feel it thinking, calculating, almost as if it was reading his mind, weighing its options. And then, just as suddenly as it appeared, it was gone. The forest grew quiet again. Paul never had another encounter like that, but the experience left him forever changed. Even now, as a retired man, he speaks with a mixture of awe and fear when recalling that morning. For Paul, there's no question about what he saw that day. It wasn't a man. It wasn't a bear. Whatever it was intelligent, powerful, and terrifyingly close. And for him, that moment still feels as real and immediate as it did all those years ago. For here we are not afraid to follow the truth wherever it may lead. Thomas Jefferson. But what if truth disappears without a trace? Each year, thousands of people go missing in the United States, many of them from remote wilderness areas. Some cases have explanations. Others leave behind nothing but confusion and silence. Former police detective David Paulides, author of the Missing 411 series, believes a disturbing pattern runs beneath these vanishings, one that defies conventional explanation. So what is this strange wilderness hiding?
Investigative author focused primarily on mysterious disappearances in the North American wilderness.
He taught my hunting class for me to get my hunting license. He taught survival.
Never really seemed to slow him down any.
So obviously he had one eye.
Yeah. He was sort of blind. It wasn't really that great, but he could actually see out of it.
One such case is Thomas Messick, an experienced woodsman and loving father. His wife described him as a kind man, respected, well-liked, and deeply connected to the outdoors. He wasn't just a hunter or fisherman. The forest was a part of who he was. Thomas had no enemies, a devoted husband, a good father, and a man whose judgment never faltered. That makes what happened next all the more haunting.
I questioned what was going on, and they said there was a hunter that had been missing.
Any signs of them?
How unusual is that for your mountains out here?
Thought it was strange. Like I said, we didn't see any signs of anything out there.
And how many people did Warren County commit?
We had our emergency response team up there, which is comprised of 13 team members.
On what seemed like a normal day, Thomas and 6 other hunters, mostly older men, drove out to Lily Pond Road near Brant Lake, New York. The plan was simple: set up along the trail in 100-yard increments and do a light hunt until the evening. It wasn't a long expedition, just a quick, casual outing.
One of the most perplexing cases I've examined involves a hunter named Thomas Messick, who in 2015 went missing in northeast New York.
Thomas, the furthest from the lake, positioned himself at his post like everyone else. The younger men would push deer toward the older men sitting on watch. This wasn't new for them. They had done this dozens of times. Everyone knew the layout. Everyone knew where Thomas was sitting.
2-hour thing until evening, and we were going to go back to camp and hunt around camp until dark.
How many guys went up there that day?
7.
Someone made the decision to hunt over by Brant Lake. Who made that decision?
I did. I just mentioned that we had state land there.
Then, something strange happened. One of the men reported hearing a sound in the woods, something unfamiliar, a sound unlike anything he'd heard before. He struggled to describe it, only saying it felt off. It wasn't mechanical. It wasn't animal. Just a short, eerie noise that came from the top of a nearby hill. He later told investigators, but it was brushed off.
And the old guys literally walked down that road in 100-yard increments. And walked in 30, 40 yards at the most and sat down.
Thomas was equipped with a walkie-talkie. Everyone in the group had one, all tuned to the same channel. But no one heard a call. No one heard a shout. No gunfire. Nothing. When Thomas didn't return by the agreed time, the group began searching. They called his name. Fired warning shots, repeatedly called over the radio. Still, nothing. Not a whisper. That night they stayed by the truck, honking the horn and firing rounds into the air, hoping Thomas would hear them. His son Robbie called home to reassure his mother, "Don't worry, we'll find him." But as hours turned into days, hope began to fade. What followed was one of the most extensive search operations in the state's history. State police helicopters, Air National Guard infrared flyovers, dozens of rangers, and emergency response teams scoured the area. Volunteers trudged through knee-deep swamps, dense thickets, and rugged hillsides. Search dogs were brought in. Roadways were checked in case he had been hit by a car. Not a trace was found.
I came into work one morning and I noticed a state police helicopter had landed in our ball field right here behind the town hall. And then I could see some rangers arranging in our parking lot their vehicles and different apparatus. And
like a set of rotor blades or a rope that you're spinning over your head. It's really, really easy to see that from the air. Typically, we find...
Even more unsettling, the area seemed empty. Wildlife was gone. No squirrels, no deer, no chipmunks, not even the usual forest sounds. Just silence. A strange, heavy quiet that many searchers later described as unnatural. Everyone expected to find him. Maybe injured, maybe confused, but alive. After all, he was no stranger to the wilderness. But Thomas Messick was never seen again. No clothing, no gear, no blood, no tracks. He simply vanished. This wasn't a man who wandered off. This was a man who sat still, at a known spot, waiting. The same man who taught his kids how to survive in the wild. A man of sound judgment and strong spirit, gone in broad daylight, less than a mile from 6 other men. So where did he go? And what did that strange sound in the trees really mean? Was it coincidence? Or was it the warning?
I was trained in all of the deceptive practices in voice communications. Besides the fact that you have the creatures stepping on each other in their conversational turns, You have the humans, like Ron, stepping on the creatures back and forth, overlapping their voices on the tapes. That can't be faked.
In December 2024, 2 Oregon men vanished in Washington's Gifford-Pinchot National Forest while searching for Bigfoot. The pair, aged 37 and 59, were last seen on Christmas Eve. A massive 3-day search followed. Drones, canine units, and U.S. Coast Guard helicopters combed the dense, snow-covered terrain. Eventually, both men were found dead. The official report cited exposure to freezing rain and snow. But something about the case didn't sit right. They weren't ordinary hikers. They were on a mission to track something ancient. Locals believe this particular stretch of forest is no place for casual wanderers. Strange howls, rock throws, and unexplainable footprints have long been reported here. This isn't just wilderness. To some, it's Bigfoot territory. Their deaths bear eerie resemblance to cases chronicled by former detective David Paulides in his Missing 411 series, where skilled hunters and hikers disappear in national forests under bizarre and unexplainable conditions. Many are never found. Those who are, like these two, turn up in ways that raise more questions than answers. Maybe it was the weather. Or maybe they crossed an invisible line into a place that doesn't welcome intruders. Sometimes people don't just vanish. Sometimes they're warned not to come back. From ancient legends to modern evidence, every story points toward something massive still walking these woods. Appalachia, British Columbia, Oregon's mountains, and haunted forests all carry the same mystery. Science, fear, and folklore now meet in the shadows. What do you believe? Could these be the clearest signs of Bigfoot ever filmed?